Hey there, guitar fanatics. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. Before we get going, if there's something on your mind about guitar playing that you'd like to see a video about, comment down below. Let me know about it. I'll do my best to address it. You know, there's an old and wise saying about guitar playing. It's not what you play, it's how you play it. Let's get real for a second. It's awfully important what you play also. And one of the things I see advanced beginners and intermediate guitar players that are trying to learn to improvise struggling with is playing the right notes in their solos to really outline the chords that they're playing over. Now, when you play blues, pop, or rock, you don't necessarily need to outline the chords like you would if you were a jazz musician, but playing the notes that have the right relationship to the chords that you're playing over is crucial so that your listeners can hear that relationship. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a tool that you probably already know, which is the major and minor pentatonic scales, and use them in such a way to make your solos sound exponentially better. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, please like this video, and let's get started. So what am I talking about here? Well, when you play a solo, you're given context by the chords that you're soloing over. And more often than not, the chords are changing underneath your solo. Now, in a pop, rock, or blues song, they might not change that much, but even in a typical 1-4-5 blues, there's 3 different chords that you're going to be addressing. Too often, for my tastes, I hear advanced beginners and intermediate guitar players think of a song as a blues in A or this rock riff in E. And they kind of put the blinders on and they play every A minor blues lick or every E major rock lick that they can think of, and they try to cobble together a solo. And while sometimes that can work, maybe if you've got amazing touch and feel, you're going to sound a lot better if you start thinking about addressing the chord changes as opposed to just seeing the song as being in one key. Basically, it comes down to getting to know your pentatonic scales a lot better, being able to move between the pentatonic scales of any chord anywhere on the fretboard, and being able to pause within those scales to play the chord tones to really make that relationship between the chords and your solos pop. We're going to work through some practice exercises using the major and minor pentatonic scales over a few different chord progressions. I know it's going to make a lot more sense, and if you practice this stuff, I promise you that your understanding of scales, chords, and your instrument as a whole is going to improve dramatically. So step number 1, we're going to learn to seamlessly play between the pentatonic scales of a 2-chord pattern. Let's take the solo section of the song Gravity by John Mayer, for instance. The intro to the song and the solo section move between a G chord and a C chord. So it's the 1 and 4 chord in the key of G. What I'm going to ask you to do is stay in the same position and play through 2 different pentatonic scales. What you're going to find out is, if you didn't know this already, is you're going to be able to play the pentatonic scales in all 12 keys and only move a fret or 2 up and down. Now, starting with the 1 and 4 chord is pretty easy because the 2 scales literally sit pretty much on top of each other in all 5 pentatonic patterns. Let's start with G major, pattern 1 at the 3rd fret. We ascend and descend through that scale. Then we're going to switch to C major, pattern 4, also at the 3rd fret. What I'm going to ask you to do next is play through all 5 patterns of those 2 chords. So we go to the 5th fret, we have pattern 2 of G major. We have pattern 5 of C major. We go to the 7th fret, we've got pattern 3 of G major. At the 8th fret, we've got pattern 1 of C major. At the 10th fret, we've got pattern 4 of G major. We've got pattern 2 of C major. At the 12th fret, we'd have pattern 5 of G major. We'd have pattern 3 of C major. And then we're back to where we started. If we go to the 15th fret, we start over with G major, pattern 1 again. I'm gonna play just a couple of those patterns over backing track so you can hear what that sounds like set to some music and in time. Step 2, once you've gotten comfortable moving smoothly between the two patterns, we're going to complicate the situation a little bit by introducing some challenges and variations. For the first one, we're going to turn our scales into sequences. We're going to start by playing the 6 notes on the bottom 3 strings. Then we're going to backtrack. We're going to play the 6 notes on the next 3 strings. Backtrack again, do the same thing. Backtrack again, do the same thing. So that was over the G chord. When the chord switches to C, or our 4 chord, we would do that same sequence with the C major pattern. Here's what that sounds like over the backing track, again, in time and along with some music. And in that first variation, we were ascending through each of the scales. For the second variation, we're going to ascend through the G scale, and we're going to descend through the C major scale. Here that is, along with some music. Sequences are really fun to play. They sound a lot more musical than just a linear scale, and they really help your fretboard knowledge by breaking up those box patterns that are so easy to get stuck in. Here's another sequence variation that I call the double up. We're going to play through 2 patterns of our respective scales, G major and C major. We're going to ascend through the first one, we're going to descend through the second one. So over G would sound like this. Obviously we do that with our C major scale also, and you could even make variations out of this exercise. You could ascend through all 4 patterns of both chords. You could ascend through one chord, descend through the next. You could even skip patterns like this. Have fun with all these variations. These exercises are going to make you more fluent in your ability to move around the fretboard without limitations, without getting stuck. And I'm here to tell you that that fluidity, that ability to move around the neck of the guitar without limitations, makes playing so much more fun. So here's the final step, and this is the one that's like the cherry and whipped cream on top of your ice cream, and that is learning to accentuate chord tones within the scales that you play. This involves becoming aware of and really focusing on those chord tones to really make the licks and lines that you play mesh with the chords that you're playing over. Sometimes I hear players play a scale that's really the right scale over the chord they're playing over, but the notes that they stop on or the notes that they accent aren't the notes of the underlying chord. Sometimes they just run up and down scales and they don't accent any notes in particular anyway. Maybe the clearest example I can give you is using the pentatonic scale of a relative major and minor key. Let's take the key of E major. C sharp minor is the relative major of E major, and the notes of C sharp minor pentatonic and E major pentatonic are the exact same notes. It's the exact same scale from a note standpoint. But it's totally possible to play some notes from that scale over the E major chord and have it sound not good at all. Why? Because sometimes players will play the notes that accentuate a C sharp minor tonality over that E major chord. C sharp minor has the notes C sharp, E, and G sharp. E major has the notes E, G sharp, and B. So E major pentatonic, C sharp minor pentatonic have the notes C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, and B. So sort of the wild card there is that C sharp note. So over C sharp minor, I can play this bluesy kind of phrase, and it sounds great. But if I play that same phrase over E major, that minor tonality, it just doesn't sound good. So you've got to become aware of those chord tones, so when you do play a lick, you're playing the right notes over the right chords. So the exercise is to get better at recognizing your chord tones. I literally want you to pause and give a little vibrato to each of the chord tones as you move through your pentatonic scale. Let's stick with that E major pentatonic scale. We're going to do pattern 5 at the 9th fret, so over our E major chord. The root is our E at the 12th fret. We've got G sharp at the 11th fret of the A string. We've got B at the 9th fret of the D string. We've got another E at the 9th fret of the G string. G sharp at the 9th fret of the B string. B at the 12th fret of the B string. And then we've got our E at the 12th fret of the E string. And of course, you would run through all 5 patterns of the E major scale in that same manner. Each time you come to a chord tone, you pause, give it a little vibrato, burn it into your brain. If this is new to you, you're going to develop both your ear and your fretboard knowledge, both of which are crucial to getting your playing to the level you want it to be. Here are a couple variations. You could play through the pentatonic scale and just pause on the 3rd. So I'm going to play through the E major pentatonic scale again, and I'm going to pause on the major 3rd each time, which is the G sharp note. Next variation, what if we just pause on the 5th, which in the key of A major is going to be our B note. We can do the root also. And of course, I would want you to do this through all 5 patterns in all 12 keys for both major and minor pentatonic. This might seem like a lot of work, but I'm telling you, there's no better feeling than playing with your band or playing along with a backing track and just being able to play and play, never feeling lost, never feeling stuck, and knowing that you're nailing the right notes. I really hope you got something out of this and that it moves your playing forward. Please like the video, ring the bell for notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment down below, like I said, if you want to see other topics. As always, you keep practicing. I'm going to keep making videos that are going to help you make sense of soloing. See you later.